Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I caught the ladies off guard. Guys, welcome to this week's edition of Sisters of Legacy. Thank you guys in advance for joining us. We're going to go ahead and roll our intro and we'll be right back. All right, ladies, and we are back. So, we're going to go ahead and introduce our wonderful ladies for this evening. We have Katrina Taylor.
Good evening.
And there's Tangela Terrell.
Hello.
And of course, there's me. I am Samantha Walker. And we have a special guest tonight that is going to come on, that is waiting in the wings to be our fourth, because we are missing the wonderful Shanetta McNair, who was on mommy duty tonight. But she will be back hopefully next week. So our topic for this evening is, I'm trying to put it up. It's really empowering versus overbearing, more or less. So, I'm sorry, I was not prepared. So, yes, that is our topic for this evening. We're going to be talking about, the kind of like the fine line that exists between, those things, between, people being empowered in a thing and then people becoming overbearing or becoming monsters in that same arena. Um, so this kind of came about for me is, just like you guys, the different things I see on social media. Sometimes it can be a woman, that she's claiming she's so empowered as a woman, I'm a boss woman, I'm a this, I'm a that. And sometimes for me, it can seem to be overbearing. Sometimes it's just not necessarily a woman, it can be a different ethnic group, that they're so empowered by being a thing that is just too much. Um, so it's not really put in any little box. It could be any particular area, any particular person, any group. I don't want to single anybody out. I don't want anybody to feel like, oh, where you're attacking this person or this group, because that is never the spirit behind anything we speak about. So, ladies, you can jump right in. And so, Tangela, when I said the topic, what was the first thing that came to mind for you?
I think I was wondering in what context are we talking empowering versus overbearing? Are we talking about with our children? Are we talking about, this whole empowerment um, season that we seem to be in? We see a lot of um, uh, initiatives geared towards empowering women or men or whatever the selected group may be. And I haven't participated in any of those sessions. So I can't speak to, if that's the context in which you are referring to. Is it overbearing? So I haven't experienced it to know, was it too much? But I will say I think the empowerment has to go beyond the event, and hopefully that there's the I guess the after effect of it's one thing to put on an empowerment workshop or session or things like that, but what tools can be taken away. So I don't know. I'm kind of curious to kind of dive into this conversation a little bit more.
Okay. So Trina, before I ask you, so I mean, I think, like I said, if we look around, everybody can find an example. Like you said, the different things. It can be with your children. I mean, let's just look at, if we put it in nice terms, Trump felt like he was empowering citizens to, to be heard. He was empowering them to take justice by the horns. And, if you ask him, he felt like he was empowering people.
Mm-hmm.
But as we see with what happened with the Capitol and different things, like his idea of empowerment became overbearing, like to everyone that wasn't necessarily in line with where he was going. So I mean, I think it could kind of be used in any example. I mean, we've seen people who with their children, little Pookie is so, sweet and so cute. And then their parents feel like, I'm empowering him to be a free thinker, to make his own decisions. And then you watch the same little Pookie, wreak havoc like all day long. So I think it's almost one of those things where you can find any example, um, and, apply it kind of anywhere. And Trina, so tell me the first thing that came to mind when I sent the topic to you.
I kind of thought about it like sometimes you come across certain people like on social media and they're like giving
Oh, Sharon.
they're trying to empower people, I guess that's their topic or whatever, but it seems like it's too much. Like it feels sometimes like almost I'm here, you guys are down here. It's kind of condescending. um the whole, if during this pandemic you didn't start a new business, if you didn't do this, then you're
Right,
wasting time or whatever
right,
Right.
type feel. And like anytime I come across something like that, I'm just like, okay, scroll, click, because
right,
you know during this time, if we got through it, you did a great thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was
right,
great. This pandemic was crazy.
right,
So, if you were able to do something great or start a business or start something during
Right.
this time, good for you. If you made it, you know what I'm saying? And you made it through and with your sanity, great
Right.
for you as well. So as far as, it's how you receive it, and also how someone is putting it out there. Are you really empowering, or are you being condescending with
mm,
what you're
good.
pushing?
That's good.
Right. So as everyone can see, we did include, I guess he could be AD today. A representative for Brothers of Legacy has joined us in on this conversation. And as AD, you have not disappointed. You already got comments coming
Oh
in.
yeah, it's what I do. It's what I
And
bring.
so,
What I bring.
your question, Anthony, was, can sometimes empowerment
Empowerment lead
lead to
to
abuse?
abuse.
Explain your question, sir,
Um,
please.
so kind of piggybacking off of what Trina said.
Not the piggyback.
Sometimes and what's up?
I said not the piggyback.
The piggyback, and ride in the same direction. So with empowerment, sometimes there could be, I get empowered to do better. I'm getting empowered to lift myself up, and now I got this and you ain't got that. I think, and I feel like sometimes with that kind of training and learning how to be empowered, there should be a level of humility taught as well. You know, understanding that you you were where I was like 3 weeks ago. Now you got a little piece of information. You've you've elevated a tad bit. Doesn't make you better. It just makes you better to you. And you're not better than anybody else. So I think it can lead to abuse because now I'm dealing with people in not such a nice way. And like the word Trina used, condescending. I'm just more, yeah, I went from my 500, now I got a 700 credit score, now I'm better. Like, and it's great that we're getting better, but we shouldn't look down on those that haven't gotten there yet or haven't pushed in that direction, because you may have your financial score straight, but your social family life is jacked up. Like, so it's a helping out, but I think sometimes empowerment without education can lead to abuse and a condescending thinking.
Wow. Okay. Trina, I absolutely agree with you. Like that whole, like I said, social media, we all have it. We all find ourselves scrolling at one point or another during the day. And you can go from one message, like, girl, you beautiful, fix your crown. And
Right.
then the next message be like, oh, well, I made it. I'm a boss. I I got this. I'm driving this and y'all don't got it. Y'all slackers, all in that same scroll of your hand. So like, is there a fine line between empowering and being overbearing, or do people just not, or is it that people just don't know any better? Like, do you think people intend to come across overbearing, or do you think they just don't know any better?
I would hope I try to see the best and believe the best and hope that people wouldn't purposefully um, turn off and discredit a set of potential clients or customers, by putting them down and being condescending. So I kind of chalk it up to maybe they don't know any. Maybe they didn't learn that part of empowerment. Maybe they just kind of, and I've seen those as well. Someone who's gained success in a certain area, and now it's kind of, well, you didn't just arrive, and no, not to discredit anyone's hard work, or anything like that, but I think sometimes the tone of the messaging can be off-putting. Sometimes the tone doesn't always match the words, or the I think the intent of what is trying to be conveyed. So you could have the information, but if you don't deliver it in a way that's pleasing or appetizing,
Right.
then who's going to want to take advantage of that?
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Jacqueline said a message can be received in many ways. Your perception matters as much as the one making it. Um,
And I agree with that as well. I mean, because sometimes, you know, you if someone is trying to help you, you know what I mean, you might not take it that way. You might feel like, well, why you trying to get in my business, or don't try to tell me what to do, and that might not be their intention, but you might
Right.
feel it that way, and they're
mm,
trying to inspire and empower you, and you're like, well, this is how I do it, or slow your roll, let's take this a little bit more slowly. You know
Right.
what I mean? So it's true that it's your perception as well. They might not have the intention of trying to be overbearing or off-putting, but if you're kind of like, okay, don't come too quickly into my little telling me what to do, then
Right.
you might take it, that way, that it is overbearing, and that might not be their intention as well. Yeah.
Right.
okay. So is the intention, is that on the messenger to clarify intention, or is it on the receiver to I guess decipher intention?
Well,
I think
I think it's the purpose. The bulk of the responsibility is on the person who's sharing the information, and
Okay.
especially if it's something that you want me to take advantage of,
Right.
then I think the onus should be on the person who's communicating. Now, granted, as a recipient, I think we have to just get in the practice of listening, reading, communicating without bias. But sometimes those biases can be so quiet and so subconscious that, we don't have time to filter through what you could have meant or what you probably are trying to say.
Right.
So while as a recipient, I could probably, remove my biases, but if it's something that, I don't know. I just personally think that the bulk of the responsibility is on the person who's doing the communicating.
Right. I mean, like, we sit down for lunch. I'm like, man, you still eating that beef? I lost 50 pounds once I stopped eating that beef. You need to stop eating that beef. It's killing. Like you just start going in with, and then it's not going to be received. It's like I understand what you're saying, but right now it's not resonating because of how you're displaying, how you're giving out the information. So I think that definitely makes a difference.
Okay.
Also, I mean, it depends on what they're saying. I mean, if you really want that information and it's helping
Right.
you, then you can
True.
disregard how they're saying it
Right.
and just
Right.
take
True.
the meat and spit out the bones. It's just like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
I don't care who's saying what. Let me just get this good information. I'm gonna write that down. You
Right.
might be
Right.
whack about it, but I'm gonna write down this information and
Right.
keep it moving.
That's
Right.
true.
That's
I mean,
true.
right? Because if I asked you, like, hey, girl, how'd you lose that 50 pounds? Like, first thing I did was get rid of
Yeah.
the hamburgers and French fries that you
That
eating. You
beef.
got the stuff in your face right now. So I guess I open it up. Then you're right. I might get it that way.
Okay, so Tinsler, you said listening and removing biases. How does one do that? How does one not be biased? I mean, we were talking I think last night when we did the show, um somebody in the comments was saying something about judgment. And I was saying, unfortunately, I feel like it's almost a natural part of who we are to have some kind of judgment or opinion, you know, of everything. So how do you get around that?
I think you first have to be conscious and aware that you have those biases, and but also not allowing those biases to hinder you from learning or growing. When you turn those biases into um, something more or something that would impede you from learning or growing or entertaining conversations or anything like that, it could be a stumbling block. But I think if you're at least first aware that, well, I know when I see this is what I automatically think about, then you can at least be able to, proceed with a little bit more openness if you're aware of it. But I think sometimes people go into situations and they immediately shut it down because something reminds them of something else, or they may be quote unquote triggered by a certain type of delivery. But I think when we really listen with the open heart, then we can, kind of quiet those biases.
Right. That listen, I will tell on myself real quick. So yeah, I'm definitely the person. If in the conversation it seems like it's going somewhere, like I'm not really interested in, yeah, like I quickly hit the off switch. Jacqueline said God wants us to judge, to significantly discern to whom we shall affiliate. Taiwan said empowerment can be overbearing in couples not equally yoked. Right. One may be trying to empower the other who isn't mentally
Right.
prepared for the elevation. The receiver
Right.
can feel immense pressure and a feeling over the other person being absolutely.
Right.
I will say, especially since he's on here. For the longest, you want to talk about overbearing? I felt like every time I opened my eyes or went from one room to the next, a certain person was let's get online. Let's do this. Even before we did the Purpose for Forever, it was a lot of pushing and poking. And he was just, every other word was, let's do it. Let's do it. And he was so, he had got online and he found his voice and he was gung ho and he was so ready for me to do it. And I'm like, like, that's not me. It was very, very overbearing. He was so he was so empowered with, and even now he still is very very gung ho
But
with all of it.
do you think we need people like that in our lives? Because I know that there are areas of my life where I probably could use somebody to push me a little bit more, because I've grown so content in certain areas that unless somebody were to just really push and prod, I probably wouldn't change anything or, you know, go after anything else. Do you think we need that?
Well, I think you definitely, I think there's a couple of different types of people you need in your life, like in your circle. You have to have like the motivator, the person that's going to motivate you no matter where you at. Like, even if, listen, I walked to the mailbox today. They like, girl, just keep walking to that mailbox all this week. Hit that mailbox and go back in the house. And then you need that person, besides the motivator, you need the person that, like you said, the pusher that's gonna say, okay, well, you went to the mailbox today. Tomorrow I need you to, hit the corner. Right. And then you need that person that's just like the person, that you vent to. Like the person that's like, oh, you went to the mailbox? Okay, you know like that's good, the person that don't push either way. Like I feel like we need several different types of people in our life. So yes, I absolutely think that you need somebody that's going to empower you. But like I said, that fine line where it becomes overbearing, like I was making a joke, Anthony know when enough is enough. Like, and there was plenty of times, where he realized, okay, I'm gonna back off for like a day or two. But then but then he would be right back. So I think we definitely need people to push us to see something in us that we may not see in ourselves. Because I think that's kind of that should be the heart of where empowerment comes. Like, I feel like you shouldn't be trying to empower me to I don't know, think I'm a Caucasian woman, because I'm clearly a black woman. You know what I mean? Like you shouldn't be pushing somebody to do something that's just not not a part of who they are. But him pushing you, but somebody pushing me to say, girl, you definitely are a black woman, but you're a black woman with a voice that can be heard. People need to hear your message. I think that's a different, that's different. I think so. Empowerment should come from the heart of it, should be seeing something in you that you may not know is there. Like you're stronger than you think, you're more powerful than you think. You have more to offer than even you realize. But again,
Uh,
that's my personal opinion.
no, I would agree with that. But I think the key there is relationship,
Right,
because when empowerment is self-serving, then it begins to get manipulative, because now I'm trying to push you to do something that fits my agenda. But when I think someone can identify uh, opportunities or potential within us individually, then I think it takes on a more positive connotation.
right. Taiwan said people who are empowering are definitely needed. They're needed in many areas of life, not just relationships. Absolutely.
Mm,
I mean, but everything is basically a relationship. It's
Right.
just a different degree of relationship. There's a relationship you have with your job or with your boss. It's just not a romantic relationship. So I think, everything is relationship based. Our whole lives, is there some form of relationship that we have, even if it's with food, it could be with inanimate objects. You have some kind of relationship with it. But yeah,
I think
Trina, you want? Oh,
you know, nope. Nope. Keep
Mm,
going. All right.
what what I think what Tangela said was important as far as if you're in a relationship with someone, they need to consider who you are and how they
Right.
try to
Sure.
empower you. Like as far
Yep.
as like you can push somebody, but it's the way you do it. You know what I mean? Like for example, if I had a business and somebody was trying to get me to advertise and they try to make me
Right.
and they trying to tell me, oh, make a video, put yourself in the video, but you don't feel comfortable about putting yourself in the video.
Right.
It may take you a minute or two to get comfortable with that idea
Right.
if that's not your personality to have your face all up in a video.
Right,
I'm
right.
just saying, you just need to know the person that you're trying to empower.
Right. Right.
Also,
But I do it that is true. Sometimes it's still like going, Sam was saying I was kind of saying stuff and putting it's kind of like planting a seed, right?
mhm,
You're like planting a seed. And then eventually one day I was about to go live. She's like, let's go live together, you know, because I've been planting the seed, and a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
times when it comes to the empowering portion and trying not to be overbearing, it's trying to get you out of a comfortable space because a lot of us are in comfortable spaces where we need to push ourselves. Like you said, the mailbox thing. Going to the mailbox, girl, you need to go a little further. So
right,
you need to get out of those comfortable spaces and into an uncomfortable place. That's where a lot of your empowerment comes from. Because once you get uncomfortable and you realize some things change, you're like, oh, okay, let's try, let's push a little harder, let's do a little more. So and it's hard when you first get it. Like I said, get rid of them burgers and fries. Hearing that message, it's like I like my burgers and fries. So but you see, if you look over, you see the results. Like, okay,
yeah,
I'm gonna try. I get rid of the fries. I'm gonna eat this burger first. So it's the steps. It's getting uncomfortable. It's like then we sit down. It's like, okay, you gotta mentally say, all right, I'm not gonna get the burgers and fries. I'm gonna get me a salad. Stick to the salad. So it's the progression and it's tried. And I get what you're saying. Like the overbearing, the constant like you need to change, you need to change, you need to change can be much, but it's the little nudges. It's kind of like if you're looking at empowering, overbearing, it's kind of like that in between. I think trying
yeah.
to get there.
Okay, so let's talk in the sense of the groups and um organizations or whatever you want to call them. I mean, there's so many different letters and you know and monikers that people use. But in terms of the groups and like once, okay, I had a lady, I saw her and she had natural hair, her natural hair. She had it done up some kind of way. I was looking, I was like, oh, okay. And I said something like, oh, I like that. Like, I was like, natural hair is it. I struggle like with the whole idea of it. Like I was saying to her, we were talking, and she was like, oh, like you need to get all that stuff out your head and da da da. And like, she kind of went into her whole, power to the people. I need to be get back to my roots and whatever. And I kind of felt like, okay, well, I'm gonna keep my roots laid down you know, until something changed for me. But she like, she missed the opening of where she maybe could have, relayed her message differently. She went straight hardcore, like, oh, well, you putting this in your head and you putting that in your head, and that's all a plan to keep you thinking, and I was just like, oh, okay. She's like, I'm team natural. And okay. And it was
I,
it was a bit much.
I think when we're enthused about something or we've been enlightened about
Right.
something,
That's
we
light.
we we are fueled by passion.
Right.
But I think we have to, in the church we call it using wisdom as to how you convey that, because that's very much off-putting to almost attack someone for having
Right.
or believing or carrying on in a way that's different from your enlightenment. And I think if the purpose and the goal is to give power or exude confidence in, then you totally miss your mark. And I think sometimes, even in the church, we have to be careful not to do that as well. We can be enthused and passionate, but when we start to kind of beat people over the head
Right.
because we've grown to a certain place in our walk with God,
Right.
then we have to be careful not to take away that empowerment and exchange it for just kind of being overbearing. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it, I think we just have to be a little bit more savvy in our attempts to share and to encourage and to empower others.
Wow.
Right. Shanetta said, it felt more like an attack. Right. She was definitely attacking me with all, yeah. Mm. And she said, you have to be able to encourage others if you're trying to give them the
Right,
confidence to try
right.
something. Right. If I want you to come onto my side of the fence, I have to, one, be willing to open the fence for you, move out of the way and allow you to come over. I can't just grab you by the head and try to, snatch you over
Right.
to my side. It's a process. Change takes time. And like you said, Taylor, you have to be smart and savvy and wise in um how you relate things to people. Like, um I try, which is a try for me, because sometimes, I jump past start and hit finish. I try to be patient with my approach, to people with different things, because I know I've said before, sometimes I can be real sharp and to the point. Like, I already went from A to Z. I didn't detour, I didn't slow down, I didn't catch any speed bumps. I just went straight for the gusto. So over time I've learned, um, that I have to pull back sometime, and slow down and hit cruise control sometimes, when I'm relaying things to people, because I want people to feel like, um that they are the best versions of themselves. Like, you don't want people to feel like, oh, I need you to do this because what you're doing or who you are is not enough. You know what I mean? Like, you don't ever want to come off that way. Like, you're not enough the way you are.
Right.
You don't want to make people feel inadequate. The idea is to say, I see so much more. I see all these great possibilities. Not, you ain't doing enough. You don't want to come off that way. So, for me, I always have to remind myself sometimes to just kind of ease on the brake, ease into neutral some, and kind of slow down when I'm talking to people about different things. But
and
that's
and
something personally, that I learned. Go ahead.
and you can turn people off from your message by like things that you say or how you deliver it. Because I was watching this financial person, and someone was asking about what to do with their stimulus or whatever, and she was like, well, I don't qualify for the stimulus, but I'm like,
Right.
wait, like, you just turn people off. Like,
I'm above,
I was like, you know what,
I'm above that stimulus.
troll.
Right.
Wow.
you
Right.
know
And I've seen that a lot over the
yeah.
last few weeks. First of
Hmm.
all, you salty because you don't qualify. Who don't want 1,400
Exactly.
extra dollars?
Right.
Who don't want that? Like, let's just be honest. Don't try to act like, oh, that little, I see people say, oh, that little stimulus check. Right. It
Right.
was little. If you giving it to me, I will take it. Thank you.
All
How
of
about
it.
I'll take yours too, since it's so
And
little.
since it's so little, since you don't need it.
Right. I mean, the focus definitely has to be,
Right.
um, not putting somebody down. Like, that's never gonna empower me. Like, even if
Mhm.
I'm a business owner and let's say I'm only open 3 days a week, if you come to me, you're like, oh, well, them little 3 days, that ain't enough. You gotta
Right.
hustle like I hustle. I'm in here 7 days a week. Like,
Right.
that's not gonna, inspire me to be
Right.
in there with you. But if you come to me and like, hey, I thought about the numbers that you're making, and if you increase a day or two, we might could double those numbers. Basically we said the same thing,
in a
just
different way.
right,
Right.
very, very differently. Ephraim said, I'm above that check. Right.
Yeah.
It's like now I'm above it. You little peons down
Right.
here, like
The
y'all
poor.
beneath me. Right. Like, because like I said, I've seen that a lot on on the internet last couple of weeks. And then I seen people, oh, if you were smart, you'd invest your stimulus
Yeah.
or something. And I seen some lady, she did like a video saying, oh, you think I should? I'm not investing nothing. She's like, you invest your stimulus. I'm getting my crab legs or something, something, that
Crab
she
legs
said.
win every time.
Yeah, like it really do. But you have to allow people to be themselves. Empowerment
Yeah.
should be about
Not the crab.
empowerment, shouldn't be about changing like people into something else. Like, I don't ever want to make somebody feel like you got to be a whole nother person to be hanging out with me. Like, who are you? It's really not that serious. That's not going to help, me on my personal journey. So how do we feel about? Okay, so well, we're not all, since most of us on here are women. So the women's empowerment, like, which I know right now is kind of, and I'll say this, I'm a woman, and I'm a little bit confused right now with what the women's empowerment movement actually is. So do you guys kind of understand what right now is happening with women's empowerment? People start to avoid you when you're too absolutely. Ladies?
I think it's a few um, sectors. I think women's empowerment is a large umbrella. And I think that you have segments within because, you can say women, but there's so much diversity. Even in that word alone, you have women, who are mothers or wives or uh, professionals or business owners. So I think the movement, I would like to think that the movement is like what you said earlier, Sam, empowering you to be you and be comfortable identifying your strengths and fighting for what you believe you deserve. So it depends. I mean, I've seen the movement kind of take on different connotations, and then there's this feminism, and it's a lot that kind of goes into that.
Right.
I kind of have my personal thought. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of feminism, but I do believe that women should be empowered to do anything, be anything. Uh, but at the same time, I do, believe that genetically and emotionally and psychologically, there are things that we are geared towards, roles
Okay.
in society that we are geared, and our makeup fits those roles. But that's neither here nor there. But I think it's multi-layered from what I've seen. It's a lot when you talk about women's empowerment.
Trina?
I think a big thing at this point is just representation. Um, as a woman of color, just for uh, girls, younger women to see that, oh, here's somebody doing something I never thought I could do.
Right.
Um, so having those images there to say, just to put it out there. Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I never saw anybody in my neighborhood ever be this person or that person or be able to own a business or be in this position. whatever it is. And I think that's one of the big things in empowering um, younger women, and even little girls, um, just to see that representation.
Okay. And Ephraim asked a good question. He said, does the women empowerment movement need any help from the men?
I think
Ladies,
we,
you want to
I
go?
think I think we could I think we need allies. I think we need someone to help the conversation in those areas where we may not have a seat at the table.
True.
But I think uh, men have to allow, women have to lead the empowerment. So I don't think men can lead the charge on women empowerment, because how can you empower me to be a woman when you don't know the struggles of a woman? But I think as a man, you can stand alongside to make sure that, when you have the opportunity to hire someone and the woman is more qualified, you don't choose a man just because, it's a boys club. I think men can support in those areas, just like, when we talk about race relation. You can be an ally to someone that who you may not share culture with, by making sure that equity is achieved and
Right.
equality and fairness is achieved.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I'll say, oh,
Go
you
ahead.
want to say something? Oh, I'll say I think men can definitely, like Tangela was saying, hold the door open. So, for those exclusive areas that have always been just men, I think some of those things will require a man to open a door or crack a window, provide a space, for women to step into. Um I'll say also, like, uh, I feel absolutely men have to be involved. I'm sorry. As much as I love being a woman and I love other women, I got three sisters. I don't want a world where there's just women. Like, I'm not trying to create some all woman, where there's just women, and the men don't have a role or don't have a part. I mean, I think we're both equally important to the makeup of our communities, of everyday life. So I feel that men absolutely have to help us. I just feel like you have to be wise in the ways that you choose to help. You definitely need to be a source of support. Sometimes your help might be silent help. Sometimes just your presence may be the help that the quote unquote movement requires. But definitely support is always needed, I feel, from our counterparts. Like, if we don't want to, I personally don't want to be a part of a movement that where we're moving away from the necessity or the need for our male counterparts in one way or another. She said, until the movement says we don't need no man holding the door, we got it. Oh,
I
I
guess
guess
until the
because
movement
I
says
said
that.
open the door. Right. But see, that's the point that I'm making. Me personally, I don't want to ever be a part of that movement. Like, I don't want to see, and I guess in some ways I kind of slowly feel like, you know, the message is kind of becoming like, we don't need y'all to do nothing. Like, we got it all by ourselves, which is a little short-sighted. I mean, necessity. I feel like, the movement can get a little short-sighted. And this is, again, these are my personal my personal opinions. Everybody on this screen might not share my opinions. This is solely a Samantha thing. I mean, like I said, I don't want to be a part of a movement where I feel like the male counterparts of our no necessity. I don't want to be a part of that. I feel like um, our men are needed. It's just in different ways. There's ways where we need the support of our men. If we become two totally separate entities, both with separate movements, dependent, um, separate of each other, like not dependent on one another at all, where does that leave our families? I feel like that just further fractures the family when you have two separate things going on where, we're taught or we're relaying the message that we don't need each other at all.
And
But that,
I think that's the caution to the women's empowerment movement, that that we're careful not uh, to put ourselves at a disadvantage by isolating ourselves from our counterparts, because we can't do it alone, and if we exclude them from our growth, uh, and I think the original intent is to bring us back into alignment, and I would even say divine alignment. I don't believe God created women to be subpar
right.
or to be beneath. I believe that women were supposed to reign with men and work alongside. But I think, through the course of history and the fall of man, women have taken a back seat and have been viewed as less than. So I think the empowerment is to restore us back to our original place. And that doesn't mean that we're above men or we're, dominating, but I think we work alongside our men to lead our families and our communities and our, churches and eventually our nation.
So Jacqueline said we were made to be a helper to the man. We were not made to just be. Being independent will cause you to be bitter and lonely. I have to totally disagree with that last part. And I think that's some of the misconception with the whole movement. Independence does not equate to bitter and lonely. Those are two totally separate things. Like I consider myself to be a fairly independent woman. I have my own train of thought, I have my own ideas, my own goals, my own things that I want to accomplish. Um that does not create necessarily a rift, with my husband, because he's not trying to lord over me or, be my ruler or, have make I don't know, give me the thoughts that I should have. So I think, the definition of words, like I said this before, the definition of what something is goes a long way. Not necessarily, how we've always used it. Because a lot of times we misuse words. We give them the Ebonics definition. And, that's kind of, my mama said it meant this. What did she say? You are not independent. You are married. Okay. I'm going to let you have that one tonight. Um, yeah. So I think definition of words means a lot, and so sometimes we need to really, really get into what the actual definition of a word is to be able to accurately relay some things. Trina, did you want to have something to say?
Well, I'm not married and I'm independent, but I'm also not bitter or lonely. I'm just not married.
Right.
I'm independent um, because I have to be. I have to take care of myself, take care of my children, um, and I'm empowered to do that because I'm capable. Um, Now, just because someone is married, doesn't mean that they're not independent. They can be married and be independent because they're not depending on or relying on this man for their identity. Of course,
Right.
they're a partnership, and they depend on each other, but she can also be independent in who she is. She has her own job, her own, she relies on herself, and even if she didn't have her own job, guess what? She's running that whole household. She's the CEO of the whole thing. So I'll just say, me not being married, I just don't, I don't ascribe to the whole bitter and lonely. I don't think I'm bitter. I do feel lonely sometimes, but the whole bitter and lonely picture, I certainly don't ascribe to that just because I'm not married.
Right. Anthony, did you want to have something to say?
Yes. So I'll say it's more of an interdependence, meaning for both of
Okay.
us, we not, she can live if God forbid I'm not here for whatever reason, she can make it. If she's not there, I can make it. But she has her own thoughts, her own purpose. God has placed in her distinct purpose and the things she's supposed to do. And yes, she is my helpmeet, as well as I motivate and push her to be who God has called her to be. Where we go, we work together to push towards that goal. When we got married, God joined us together to push toward a specific goal and go a certain direction, and that's how we work together. And she's independent because she's a free thinker. She's like have her own thoughts, have her own ways. You're right. Oh, so it's not man. I think that you hit hard with that bitter and lonely, like bitter and lonely. Like I mean, it to speak it in that term is kind of out of order. Like I mean, there are those that desire to be in a relationship. They're looking for the right one, or waiting for. I'll say, as one waiting for the right one. Um, but it's waiting. They're not just gonna get with somebody, so they're not lonely, because that's a whole nother bunch of issues that you have. If you just get with somebody, not to be lonely. Um, so yeah, yes, it's like I said, it's more of an interdependence that we have going on there. Yeah, real quick, as far as the movement, you guys have spoke about, for us guys just speaking up, when women's names come across applications, we're in the decision room, we're picking based on qualifications, not just gender. We're picking, with the right and with the right mindset, and we're opening doors, we're holding the door so that women can have their space and do what they're, because there are those that are better. Listen, we need to have her in here because she can do this better than we can, and that's just that's it. That's it. And we just be there and support and encourage and tell your daughters that you can do these things, and tell your wives that, yeah, don't worry about what they said. You got this. So that's it.
Honestly, I say all the time about different things. Like we're all connected. We're all connected. Male, female, Caucasian, African American, Asian. Regardless of how what distinctions you try to make, we are all connected. So I think it's important for all of us to work together, to be supportive of the other, whether it's women's empowerment, whether it's fatherhood, or being a black man in America, those things, they're all important, but it's better to look over and see your counterpart there cheerleading for you, to see your counterpart, being supportive. Those things make a big difference in how we relate to each other. So I think men are definitely important to the women's empowerment movement. Um, as well as women being important to the men's. We're all equally important to each other. We all have similarities. We all innately want the same thing, which is our best life. But at the same time, like me going after my best life, I shouldn't feel like I need to walk across Katrina to get to my best life. I shouldn't feel like I need to put down Tangela for me to have my best life. Empowerment should be, look, ladies, I'm doing this and it's working and I'm happy. So let me show you what I'm doing. and maybe this will make you put you in a happy space as well. That's what empowerment is. Like I found something that's working. Girl, I'm happier than I've ever been. Let me share what I found with you. Maybe you'll find your happiness there. That's all a part of empowering one another. It's important. How we relate to each other is very important. How we relate ourselves, how we relate our messages, all those things are important. Words are important and they matter, and definitions matter. So we have to be extremely careful about how we use words. You don't ever want to injure somebody um, unintentionally because you're using words incorrectly. So that's my message on empowerment. I know this is like Women's Month. I never know what the date is, so I don't really know if we have another Tuesday in this month. Okay, he said we do have one more Tuesday, so we'll be back next week again. Because I'm a woman every day of the week, every day, every week. That's never going to change. So this is something that's very important to me, and I will say, as I learn and as I grow, um, the definition of it changes for me. What empowerment really is, and also how I attack the situation changes with my growth. So my hope is that I'll get better and better at it with time. So, ladies, did you have anything you want to share?
That
No.
was great discussion.
It was.
Anthony, thank you so much for joining us this week. we we appreciate you, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, we'll be back next Tuesday at 8:30. Join us. We will be here until next Tuesday. Have a great night.